the day today to celebrate October and fall and pumpkins and going to the pumpkin patch. I'm going to read to you today Pick a Pumpkin, Mrs. Millie by Judy Cox, illustrated by Joe Matthew. Pick a pumpkin, Mrs. Millie. Mrs. Millie, our teacher, is really silly. Good morning, class, she says. It's nice to meet you. It's nice to see you too, Mrs. Millie, we say. Today we're going to the pumpkin patch, Mrs. Millie tells us. Don't be so silly, Mrs. Millie. You mean the pumpkin patch. We'll pick pumpkins for our harvest party and bring them yak to school. No, we shout. You mean back to school. We line up to get on the bus. It's cold today. Don't forget your jackals. Don't you mean our jackets? We ask, giggling. At the farm, Farmer Don greets us at the gate. Everyone will go on a hayride, says Mrs. Millie. Everybody on the dragon. Don't be silly, Mrs. Millie. You mean the wagon. The hayride takes us down the road. Look, calls Mrs. Millie, a harecrow. We know what you mean, a scarecrow, we tell her. We climb off the wagon and run into the field. Be sure to pick a big one, says Mrs. Millie. Mrs. Millie, you mean a big one. We wade through the muddy field. Look round at the orange pumas, calls Mrs. Millie. Pumpkins, we shout. After everyone has found a pumpkin, we load them onto the wagon. Now we'll visit the barn, says Mrs. Millie. You can be the animals. Don't be silly, Mrs. Millie. You mean feed the animals. We feed the horses and toss grain to the chickens. Mrs. Millie takes a picture of the pigs. Time to pet the boats, she says. Silly Mrs. Millie, you mean the goats. Mrs. Millie pets a billy. Let's help Farmer Don snake the leaves, says Mrs. Millie. You're so silly, we cry. You mean rake the leaves. And we jump into the leaf pile. That's so fun. I spy a corn maze, says Mrs. Millie. Who wants to play hide and sheep? Hide and seek, Mrs. Millie, we yell. Ready for some hot apple cider? Asks Mrs. Millie. You mean hot apple cider, we say. How can you be so silly? Finally, it's time to leave. We'll take our pumpkins back to Mule, says Mrs. Millie. We know what you mean. Back to school, we shout. We carve them into gecko lanterns. Silly Mrs. Millie, you mean jack-o'-lanterns. Wasn't the pumpkin patch fun? Says Mrs. Millie as we line up for the bus. Yes, Mrs. Millie, we had fun. Farmer Don loads our pumpkins onto the bus. Thank you, we tell him. As the bus pulls away, we wave goodbye to Farmer Don and his billy boats. The end. All right, friends. I hope you have enjoyed our story of the day. Pick a pumpkin, Mrs. Millie. Stay tuned tomorrow for another story of the day. But until then, we'll see you next time. Air hugs. Bye.